everyone can manage to a system. If you're an entrepreneur out there, no matter the industry, and you just kind of feel you're floundering, you kind of feel like, man, I've got this product, or I've got this idea, or I've got something that I want to put to market, and I can kill it. I could do so well. I could serve so many people. And you're trying to express that to folks. That's fine and dandy, but you better have a system in place to manage to. If you don't have a system in place, you're ultimately going to fail. I hate to say that. And it goes to an old adage, and I think I might be misquoting this, might be Benjamin Franklin. Those that fail to plan can plan to fail, right? And I'm paraphrasing, obviously. I don't know what
I'm going to. Hello and welcome to the Beards and Business Show. I'm your host, Anthony Pacheco. Today, as a guest, we have Britton Johnson, aka Britt. Considered a top performer in his industry, Britt is a charter leadership fellow through the American College, accredited asset and wealth management advisor. Before his 18 years in the financial services industry, Britt served our beautiful country in the United States Air Force. Welcome to the show, Britt.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here and honored. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Britt, you and I have known each other for quite a while and worked together in a couple of facets. And so this is going to be a really fun show for me. So really appreciate you coming on.
Likewise. Fun for me, man. Thank you.
That's awesome. So we're going to kind of dig in a little bit, and we kind of start off the show in the personal realm. And it's really hard to separate personal from business a lot of times, but we're going to do our best. All right. So take us back a little bit on your journey. Tell us a little bit about Britt, who you are, where you came from, whatever you'd like to share with the audience.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me on. I am super grateful and humbled to be on your show, up and coming, rising show. Your interview skills are impeccable, man. I've watched a few of your podcasts before. I'm a subscriber. I'd recommend folks subscribe. You have a phenomenal skill set in your interviews, and thanks for digging into me. And again, I'm just humbled and honored. So to talk a little bit about me and my background, I come from very, very humble beginnings. I was born on Big Spring Air Force Base in Big Spring, Texas. And that's where Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier. So kind of proud of that. But I grew up in Texarkana. Texarkana is a twin city. Half the town's in Texas. The other half is in Arkansas. I lived on the Arkansas side. My dad would literally sand tanks at an Army depot and go to school at night. And my mom would iron people's shirts for 20 cents a shirt just so we could live. So we could live off egg sandwiches, essentially. So come from very humble beginnings. I've got two siblings, a younger brother and a younger sister. I'm the oldest. We're all 5 years apart, very close with my siblings. My parents were really good to us. They tried to give us the best that they possibly could. Later in life, they ended up divorcing and separating, and that changed a lot of family dynamics. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But they really tried to do the very best that they could for us, to give us a life that they didn't have growing up. And I always looked at that hard work and that ethics of my parents, and that always it became a core of who I am. And I'm very proud of those humble beginnings. My dad, like I said, would sand tanks during the day. He would go to school at night. He also would do a ton of community service. He was a Kiwanis, and he would, believe it or not, this man made about $3 an hour sanding tanks, and yet also got elected to the school board in our town as well, and did a lot of community service. So it taught me a lot in giving back to the community and putting into the communities that we live in and abroad. And it was a great example for that. My mom worked so hard to ensure that her kids had the best that they could provide at the time. And it was a huge victory looking back in life, having that sort of upbringing. And I consider myself very blessed and very fortunate to have those parents and to have siblings that I still love and care about and have a great relationship with as well. My brother works at the corporate office for Bridgestone in Nashville, Tennessee. He's a steady Eddie kind of guy. He started there from being an intern in school to being an executive there now, and does pretty well. Matter of fact, shout out to my brother RC. He just got a big promotion this week, so I'm really proud of you, RC. Great job. My sister Sarah Jane, she is a librarian and also a teacher at Dallas Public Schools. Teaches at Mockingbird Elementary, and was nominated as Teacher of the Year for Dallas Public Schools. So I'm super proud of her too. And it's kind of crazy. People say they can't be successful in a broken home, and we ended up having a broken home later in life. That is complete and utter garbage. We are products of our environment, but we are ultimately products of how we adapt to our environment. And for me, being a teenager, not a young teenager, but a teenager, and having a family separation and family move and go different directions. One of the best things that I ever did is I decided to, after being foolish for a few years, I decided to grow up a little bit, and I joined the military, joined the Air Force. It's one of the best things I ever did. It taught me how to grow up. It put me in a position to where I needed to sink or swim. And I chose to swim, and I'm absolutely grateful for that. So as far as my high school and all those upbringings, we moved around a little bit. Lived in Texarkana, in a town called Corning, Arkansas. The state bird in Corning is the mosquito. Great little town, good people. And then ultimately we lived in a town called Milan, Tennessee, just kind of in between Memphis and Nashville. Just north of a town called Jackson. So small town area. So I pretty much grew up in small towns. Never really lived in a big city until later in life. And I've been very fortunate after I got out of the service and served, in the Air Force. While I was in the Air Force, I met my wife, who is now my wife, who was a student at Colorado State. I was stationed in Cheyenne, Wyoming at the time. And by the way, it's an Air Force base with no airfield. So it's all missiles and wind and antelope. That's all there is out there. But Cheyenne's cool. It's just, summertime is great in Cheyenne. Don't like the winters too much out there, but summertime is definitely good. Met my wife. She was an undergrad at Colorado State. Smart girl, a good salesman, knows how to close deals. And I married up, man. I definitely closed I closed the deal. She graduated with honors in undergrad, then went to veterinary medical school at Colorado State. That's when we got married. And then we after she got out of the service, about 6 months later, the Air Force actually wanted to recruit her as a public health officer. So my beautiful bride, Chelsea, is now Lieutenant Colonel in the Air Force, and is in charge, if you can imagine this, during COVID and pandemics. She's actually the public health chief for Space Force. So she's definitely got a lot on her plate. Yeah. So that's a little bit about my history and my background, getting into that. And that kind of led me into the business that I'm in today. I'll just move forward a little bit more in my personal life. Uncle Sam, I got into sales while my wife was in vet school. I was selling cars. Okay. Shout out to Spradley Bar Ford in Fort Collins, Colorado. Great people. Ended up being one of the fleet managers there. And I learned to deal with business owners as a fleet manager. And it gave me a lot of exposure. I learned a ton from the car business. I learned how to sell on your feet and close on your seat, right? And it gave me the opportunity to really hone my skills in working with people and understanding the differences between emotional and logical, and being able to segregate and separate those things. Well, fast forward, Uncle Sam wanted to move my wife to Travis Air Force Base in Northern California. I get out there, and man, I didn't know what to do. I had a CDL from my commercial driver's license from my work in the Air Force, because I was a truck driver, you name it, we drove it in the Air Force. And I had a CDL, didn't know what to do with it. And that's where a big influence in my life came along. We got out there to Travis Air Force Base, and we started looking for a church home. Found a church there in Fairfield, California. Met a gentleman by the name of Rufus T. Williams III. And Rufus is a godsend. Rufus is an incredible financial planner in Northern California. Shout out to Rufus T. Williams. But he was a huge, and still is to this day, a huge influence on my life. And he took me to lunch. Literally, I met him at a place, drove my propane truck that I was driving, as a temporary job, to meet him at lunch. And he wanted to talk to me about being in financial services and what that looks like and what's required for it. And he wanted me to get what's called a Series 7 and a Series 66. And I studied my tail off for 6 months every night. And lo and behold, on December 28th, my birthday, I passed that thing barely. And that kind of got me on a different trajectory. And I started working for and with Rufus Williams at Solano Wealth Management there in Fairfield. That has been one of the most impactful things that I've ever had happen to me. Not only is Rufus a mentor of mine in teaching me how to serve people and serve them the right way, but to truly look out for their financial benefit, but it has been a good example for how I lead other insurance professionals in our industry. It's also taught me how to focus on not only being a good steward of those things, but even being a good steward in my personal life, and being a better husband to my wife, and being a better family member to my family. And those relationships that I've built, man, they're lifelong relationships, kind of like the relationship that I have with you, Anthony. That relationship will never go away. We will always be connected and always be friends because we work together. We have the same ethical mindset, the same service mentality, and that lends well to what you're doing here on the podcast, man, because you truly have a heart of service, man, and that shows. But that's where I started getting into business, and that's kind of where that personal life transitioned into who I am today as a professional. And who I am today as a professional, believe it or not, is part of who I am as an individual. And so those things intermingle. Like you said, sometimes it's hard to separate that business and personal. But truthfully, part of who I am as a leader and as a business owner and a founding partner of Voluntary Insurance Partners, it's a core of who I am. And that goes to the root of it. I feel that many people wake up, and I think we're socially trained just to wake up, go punch a clock, go get that job, and that's what you do, but it's not who you are. I feel that I'm very blessed and very fortunate because what I do is a part of who I am. And that lends to a what I hope to be a genuine heart of service, right? So they do blend together for me. They absolutely do.
No, I think that's probably the part that I really want to highlight a lot of times whenever I say, trying to separate the two, the personal from the business life. And a lot of times it is very hard to separate the two, specifically because you are bleeding over into your business. You don't have to change. It's not a new hat that you're sticking on. Like you said, I'm not punching a clock, coming and going. This is just who I am. And so if I am who I am all the time, then it's very hard to separate. I'm really glad because you did a really good job of it, especially because you told us so much about the personal beginnings of who you are. We can see why you're a hard worker. It was the foundational belief that your family held. Working hard was important. And, getting to spend the time that I did with you, I understood what you meant when you said you were going to work hard. I remember just, days when it would be tripled up interviews all day long. I mean, you were just pounding out. And anytime I'd walk by your office and look in, dude, you just had the biggest smile on your face. You just really love who you are in your business. And it's so authentic and it's so transparent, and you don't have to try. It's just who you are. So
Thanks.
Appreciate you sharing all that with us.
Thanks, man. Thank you, Anthony. That means a ton. I mean, you're a legend in our industry. You've moved on to bigger, stronger, better things, and to hear that even years down the road, man, that's very humbling. And thank you. Thanks.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
very cool.
Your leadership. So we are going to kind of segment into that business side of things. I know that there's, pretty vast jump between, the U.S. Air Force to where you are right now, founding partner of, VIP. And so kind of take us down that journey. Tell us a little bit about the financial services industry and how it really changed and what impact you wanted to bring to people.
Yeah. So when I first got into financial services, honestly, I had no idea. I mean, I'm just a kid that passed these exams that looks at a guy who's here in life, and I'm like, I want to be like that guy, right? And because I saw and I admire Rufus Williams so much, I saw that the man that he is and the humility that he has, and this combined with the success that he has, and I'm like, man, I want what that guy's got, right? So truthfully, when I came in, I didn't have a clue. Fortunately, Rufus was a good teacher. And unlike the corporate world and the corporation that you and I worked for, Rufus was an independent financial planner and an independent thinker and a true principle of his wealth services, his wealth management services. And he taught me a principle. Now, I'm gonna teach you this little principle. You may have heard me teach this before. I'm pretty sure you have, but this is something that I think everyone needs to know. So this is kind of why I'm going to illustrate this out there. Imagine a stool, okay, and you're saving up for your retirement, that rainy day. You're working class like me. You're saving money in a 401k or a simple IRA or a brokerage account, whatever that may be. The question that I want your audience to ask themselves is, how many legs must a stool have? And the answer is 3. Okay. 4 is better, but you got to have 3 legs on a stool. Anthony, what happens if you don't have 3 legs on a stool?
Falls over.
Falls over. That's right. And the legs of that stool is something that a basic principle that Rufus taught me. And here's what these 3 legs represent. The first leg is accumulation. And that means save your money, right? Just put your money away. The second leg is management. And that means to put your money in the right places for the right amount of time. And believe it or not, audience, time is more important than the dollar amount, believe it or not. It really is. That compounding of time matters.
Absolutely.
The third leg is preservation, and that's to protect it from loss, right? And what the reason that leg is just as important as the other 2 legs is life happens, okay? Death happens, sickness happens, injuries happen. Those things happen in life. We don't want to talk about it, but they happen. And you need some preservation of your assets so that money that you're sticking on top of that stool can keep building and growing. Without those 3 legs, it's not going to grow. And where I found myself was attracted more to the preservation side. So accumulation and management, a lot of financial planners solely focus on that accumulation management, but they're missing a big piece, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not the guy to go to when it comes to accumulation management. I can definitely send you to some great people that can, but the preservation is really where I feel that I'm strongest and I'm best. And I'll tell you a practical reason I found that. I feel like I try to have a heart of service with every client that I have. And I'll tell you a little bit about an account that I was working with in Northern California. This was a little pipe fitters company, small group. They had like 11 employees. They were in a little town called Dixon, California. So by the way, if you're ever in Northern California in May, go to the Dixon May Fair. It's awesome. What a great time. But Dixon, California, they were called Dixon Pipe Fitters. And we were doing, we had what was called a simple IRA in there, okay? It's like a smaller version of a 401k. And of these 10 or so employees, I think it was like 11, but of these 10 or so employees, I would meet with them, talk to them about their retirement accounts. I would always hear this. Matter of fact, 8 out of 10 would say this: Britt, you're right. I need to save my money. I need to put my money away. But we would always hear the big but. things are tight right now. I got to keep the roof over my head. I got a very expensive beer bill or whatever it is that they're saying. There was always a reason and excuse for them not to save that money because, and really what it was mentally their paycheck was extremely important to them. They felt that they needed every penny of that paycheck during that time. They weren't thinking about that accumulation and management down the road. They were thinking about, man, I got to have this coming in my check every week. Britt, you're right. I need to save my money. And dude, I'm going to do that next year. But remember, time is more important than the dollar amount, right? I walked away going, man, I served maybe 2 people out of those 10. Like in that scenario, I'm like, I just don't feel like I had a big impact. I'm going to fast forward about 6 months. I had an insurance carrier, one of their representatives, say, hey, this is what we do. And we provide disability insurance. We provide accident insurance. And I wanted to learn more. And I realized that this product, what we know as voluntary benefits today, as the evolution in our industry, I realized that these were tools that we could use to help protect that very paycheck that's extremely important. And it is important. The ability to earn income is the greatest asset that most people have, right? It's absolutely important. Yeah. So I brought in and I pitched these products for this specific carrier. And of those 10 people, 8 of them enrolled. And I was taken back by that. And I'm going, wait a second. They understand they need to save money, but their paycheck is so important to them. They need a tool to help protect that paycheck, right? And that little tool, that little bit that they spent on those insurance products to protect that paycheck made a big difference. And I'm going to tell you why. 3 months later, one of those gentlemen ended up with cancer, had lung cancer. And his medical bills were astronomical. And those checks coming in from that insurance company were there for him when he needed it the most. And I realized personally, in my capacity, I have a bigger impact on people's lives and protecting their ability to earn income and be there at those critical moments than I did personally putting money away into their 401k or their retirement account, right? So for me, I found an attraction to that. At that moment, I was hooked. Now, at the time, I didn't know what I didn't know. I was really connected to one carrier. You are too, Anthony. We were both tied to that carrier, and we were kind of taught that one carrier was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they were the only option out there. Truth is, there's a lot of options out there. And now being in the position that I am, I can truly do the best thing for my client and focus on their needs more than what a carrier is feeding me. Now, that carrier was the right fit at the right time for that group, but they're not the best fit for every case. Matter of fact, most cases, not the best fit anymore. The times have changed, right? Which is pretty cool. I mean, who uses a typewriter these days, right? They're kind of like the typewriter of the VB space. So
absolutely,
we'll take a computer over a typewriter any day. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's interesting that you talked about so much about the 2 out of 10 versus the 8 out of 10, and when you really looked at how do I serve the most people, right? You found the pain point, right, and then you provided the solution for that pain point. And I believe, if we all looked at our business in the same manner, and we went out and we found the pain first, and then we brought the product or solution to provide to those people, we'll always have success, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you start with a product or solution first, and then go try to find the audience, typically it's going to be really hard. But if you go find the opportunity first, and then create the product or solution around that, you're going to have much more success in the business world.
That's right. You're spot on. I mean, it's what the automotive industry did to horses, right? Sure. Horses are a lot of maintenance. They're expensive. That automobile, when Henry Ford put that mass production line for the Model A, or actually Model T, then that was revolutionary, and look at our society. We can't imagine a world without cars today. No different than the cell phone today, right? A
Absolutely.
smartphone. People keep those on their hips at all times, and that solved problems. We have many supercomputers in our hands, right? If you have a question, do you ask your buddy these days, or do you go to this thing called Google right on your phone in your hand?
It's a verb now. I Googled it.
It is a verb. You're right, man. You're right. And those people found Google smart. They found a need. They found a pain point. People want to get information quickly and accessible. So what do? They smartened up search engines and found a way to monetize it. And Alphabet's one of the biggest companies in the world because of it. You're right. Yeah. So, and it is about serving people, and it is about that pain point, right?
Sure.
That's what it comes down to. No doubt.
How much bigger of a market do you have too, right? I mean, you could have niched out, and they say the niches, riches and niches, and then it's true, right?
Yeah.
But when you looked at it from a financial services standpoint, you said, I can serve so many more people here, right? Sometimes that taking that step back is more important.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because a lot of people get into financial services with the idea of being the Wolf of Wall Street or something, right? They come in with this idea of making millions and a fortune and living the life, right? And truthfully, the best people in the industry, they're very blue collar. They really are. They're the best people in the industry are folks that realize and have empathy, as you were speaking about, for their client, and understanding the work that they're putting in to save their money back. And they realize, and they kind of look at it from a perspective of what would I do for myself and what would I do for my family, right? And if you kind of put that in its place, that's a key component. For me, I found it to be more attractive to focus on the preservation side, right? That's in most financial planners don't look at it that way. They really don't. They might say they sell life insurance or long-term care insurance, and they might dabble, but really their focus is on the accumulation and management. And I get it. That's a full-time gig, right? It really is. And there are riches and niches. And I kind of found a niche in that VB space. I can barely spell VB, but I got to tell you, man, we've been very fortunate in timing and focus. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that later on. And some things that we've come together with, and some things that really, I feel like our agency and our little team, we've got about 30 people. I feel like we are on the cusp of doing something revolutionary, quite honestly, in the marketplace. And we're definitely shaking up the industry right now. And I'm pretty excited about what's entailing.
We look forward to hearing a little bit more about that in detail too. So,
absolutely.
So military, into the financial services, into the preservation side. It's funny. I talked to Rufus a little bit, and he told me, he said, ask Britt, accumulate, manage, and preserve. What does that mean? What does that mean to him? So it's great that it just naturally came up, because
that is awesome.
It is absolutely.
Now, he'll start talking about liquidity buckets down the road too. Buckets and stools.
Buckets and stools. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I still talk about buckets and stools today.
That's right, man. That's right.
So true. But got into the insurance side of things, full on in the voluntary market, understand the industry probably better than anybody else I know, honestly. I mean, and I know a lot of guys in this industry. And so, as we've gone through that, probably what is your biggest takeaway from the industry itself, just the insurance industry or the financial services industry? Kind of what have you learned the most about, or what do you, I've always seen you as a huge leader personally, right? Lead fantastic teams. That's what I've always known you at. Yes, Thanks. You have a gift for knowing and loving the industry, but when it came to leading a team, can you teach us a little bit today about what it means to lead a team to you?
Oh man, I don't know anything about it. No, I'm kidding. Um, you know, I consider myself very fortunate, very fortunate, very blessed. I do not, there isn't a day goes by that I don't consider what I do a blessing. And it really goes back to my first business beginnings and the principles that I was taught. So if you look back and have a heart of service for your client, and you're truly trying to do the right thing for them. And back in the day, my scope of knowledge was pretty limited. I mean, I know more now. I probably know double now than what I did 5 years ago. But my scope in the industry, no matter what I knew or didn't know, and didn't know what I didn't know, or the unknown of the unknowns, Donald Rumsfeld talk. But all that. Always put your client first, always. Now, in a leadership role, my clients were my team, right? Now, it's not that I didn't have official clients out there,
Sure.
but my clients are my team. Put them first. If you put them first and focus on what their needs are, learn about their families, care about them, get to know them as a person. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had people on my team that I just didn't like. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
But believe it or not, I still tried to take the time to learn about them and care about them. Now, if they're unwilling to open up and learn, they're probably not a good fit for the team culture anyway, right? If you care about your clients, you need to care about your people. You need to care about them as well. You have to put their needs first. Understand and listen. Oftentimes in our industry, this is a sink or swim industry, and a lot of times people sink. Okay, that's just the facts. But we need to be empathetic to those things. Offer solutions. Okay, doesn't mean it's always the perfect solution, but try to offer solutions to help them find those pain points, just like you said. And it's no different with your team members. Find their pain points, right? I'll give you a really good example. I've got a gentleman on my team right now who moved to a different town. He doesn't know anyone in this town. There's no help for him in this town. None of those things are there for him. He doesn't have that geographical support system. So, and I'm not trying to make this about me, but I think it's very important that I drive 3 hours out of my week, one day a week, to make sure that I'm in the field with him doing the same things that I would have done as a rookie in the industry to help build a business for him. And I'm so proud of this young man, because this young man is doing all the right things. He's had a dry spell, right? He's had a dry spell in this business, but he's doing all the right things and he's making some headway. As a matter of fact, 5 minutes before this interview, I got an email with 3 accounts that he set up in one day. So I'm so proud of him. And I like to think that I help play a role in his motivation by trying to lead from example and show him the solutions to help his dry spell, right?
Absolutely. Actions are caught, not taught, right?
That's right. That's it. And I tell people that we all carry the DNA from our first trainer. Every one of us. We carry the DNA from the first person that ever trained us in our business. We carry their habits. Hopefully they're good habits. And we carry that DNA. Sometimes people carry bad DNA from their first trainers. That's just the truth. But I believe that if I can be your first trainer, then I think you're going to do this with a heart of service. And that's really, I'm not looking for rookies specifically these days anymore, but I will tell you, whoever your first trainer, your first leader was, you carry some of their DNA. So thanks a lot, Rufus.
That's awesome. So could you tell us about a time that you've had to retrain somebody? Somebody's been trained, you don't have to give it the exact example, but I'm sure you've come across this a lot, right? Where somebody did have some really bad DNA, and instead of just kicking them to the side, you saw some really good in them. And so you maybe had to retrain.
Yeah. And you know what, that's a great question. And I can think of a few good examples. One of these people, Anthony, this was before you moved to Arizona, actually. There was a young lady in our industry that, was kind of an underperformer, never had shown, a whole lot of production, a lot of performance. And we were working for a company at the time that was all numbers driven, right? Very numbers focused. That has changed for me, by the way. But this young lady came to me. I was her new regional manager, and she had come to me and she had explained that her husband had lost his job, and she needed to put more focus on her business. And she came to me with a very heartfelt. It wasn't, hey, I'm looking for a handout. It was a very sincere, heartfelt, I need to step up my game so I can provide for my kids, and I can provide for my family, and I can help my husband while he's looking for another job, right? And it was a very real conversation, and it was very it still sticks to me this day, that conversation. It really does. And I'm very proud of this person. I don't work with this person. There's a rumor she's looking at joining another team, so we'll talk later. But I don't work with this person right now. But this individual, I'm so proud of what she did, and I'm so proud of the effort that she put in, because she, to this day, is one of the top producers with the same company to this day in the Phoenix area. I'm in Colorado Springs. She's in Phoenix, but to this day, she's still one of the top producers out there, and has a great career, and has done it for well over a decade now, and is vested in all of the renewal income that she was promised. And it's really, I like to feel that it's made a big impact on her life. And I retrained her, from the beginning, and that coachability, because it was coming from a very real place with her. I like to think that I had a little part in her success. It was her doing all the work, sure. but I like to think that I had a little bit of influence on that. And I'm grateful that she came to me, because I feel that her work combined with that opportunity, really provided for her and her family and her kids. And I'm proud of her. I'm super proud of her today. Every now and then I'll get a text message from her saying, hey, I qualified for this award, or qualified for this contest. And that just thrills my soul to hear that, even down the road, that makes me pretty proud. Another really good example of that in this business, though, aside from the lady that I'm speaking of, is oftentimes, and this is, in my opinion, leadership 101. I call it the sophomore slump. If you've got a new agent, and again, we don't work with new agents so much these days, but if I had a new agent that was just knocking it out of the park in their first year, and I'm speaking from experience here, also personal experience. The second year, their numbers and their production drop dramatically, and what happens quite often to talented individuals and talented people is they start taking shortcuts in their business, right? The hard work, the prospecting, the follow-ups, the follow-through, the explanation, the slow explanation of benefits to people so they clearly understand what their benefits that are available to them. The work that goes on at night when it's after hours, right? A lot of that, that very well, Anthony, but all that work, that talented sophomore tends to take the foot off the gas, tends to start taking shortcuts, and then they start floundering and they wonder what the heck's going on, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't know, they're kind of lost. So believe it or not, retraining isn't just from someone with bad habits. Retraining can actually be someone with really good habits that were set, and you got to bring them back to that. And I like to equate that to Major League Baseball. So
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, so when you live in Arizona, you're there for what's called Cactus League. Half of Major League Baseball for spring training goes to Arizona. The other half goes to Florida, right? And these guys that have been playing baseball, they've been playing baseball their whole lives. Listen, they breathe, eat, sleep, do everything baseball, right? I'm sure they go to bed with a glove in their hand, right? It's just, that's what they do. But when you go back every year to basic training and you start over, or basic training, gosh, man, there's real Air Force in me coming out. When you go back to spring training, you're going back to the basics. You're learning to throw again. You're running laps again. You're running bases. You're learning to slide again. You're doing all those basic things and getting ready for the regular season. So you get out of that funk that sophomore tends to get into our business. So those basics are important. So retraining is a very common thing. Even old veterans, sometimes we get in our own way and we start taking shortcuts on things. And then we go, wait, why did this account not work out? Why did this business not do business with me? I've got the best products, the best underwriting, the best prices, the best benefits, blah, blah, blah. Why did they not do business with me? Sometimes we have to look inside and we have to realize that maybe we're skipping steps. Maybe we're skipping those things that we need to be really, really good and proficient at, right? And sometimes we don't even realize it. So,
and the golden value hammer just got dropped right there. If you are in any industry, it doesn't matter what it is, you literally need to re-listen to that. Rewind it 35 seconds and re-listen to that, because that was stellar. Thank you, Brett.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's real, man. We've all gone through the ups and downs, right? And it's sometimes it's good to be, look in the mirror, first, and what are we doing differently that we could be doing, a little bit better? Are we skipping steps? And usually that's the time. Most of the time that's the case.
Absolutely.
Of the time. Even people with bad habits, they become bad habits because they start skipping steps, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Sometimes they had a trainer that was skipping steps, right? And they learned that way. And you got to rewind that. That's trying to put the toothpaste back into the tube, sometimes. But
yeah, processes and systems in business are a must, right?
Yes.
And a lot of times the entrepreneur doesn't meet up with the processes and systems because it's really big idea, right? It's kind of going back to what we talked about in the beginning, where I have this idea, this product or this service that I know solves a problem, but does the audience know that the problem is there, right?
Yeah.
And so those processes and systems, once we get those in place, it's just funny to watch. Not funny, but it's amazing to watch a business that was purely entrepreneur driven meet up with a partnership that gives them those processes and systems, and just kind of the cohesion and how the processes and systems will make this smooth, well-oiled machine just click, 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 click.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. No, you're spot on. I mean, and by the way, that you talk about processes and systems. Everyone can manage to a system. Everyone can manage to a system. If you're an entrepreneur out there, no matter the industry, and you just kind of feel you're floundering, you kind of feel like, man, I've got this product, or I've got this idea, or I've got something that I want to put to market and I can kill it. I could do so well. I could serve so many people. And you're trying to express that to folks. That's fine and dandy, but you better have a system in place to manage to. If you don't have a system in place, you're ultimately going to fail. I hate to say that. And it goes to an old adage, and I think I might be misquoting this, might be Benjamin Franklin. Those that fail to plan can plan to fail, right? And I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but
sure.
But we say a lot of things come from Benjamin Franklin. Who knows who it came from? But I believe that if you don't plan, if you don't have something to manage to, it works. And by the way, it doesn't have to be fancy. There's a lot of tech companies out there that sell a lot of systems that you can pay for. Listen, in my opinion, there's nothing better than a notebook and a bunch of sheets of paper and writing how many times you followed up with someone, right? That's pretty basic. And I don't need to go spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a CRM system, for what my notebook can do, and that's tried and true. And it might cost you about $20 total. so it'll save you some money, but manage to a system and
Sure.
use that work ethic to apply to that system.
Yeah, whatever system works for you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, absolutely.
Exactly.
No, that's really good. So cool. We're gonna talk a little bit about that thing that's wrapped around your face there. A little something going on. Tell us a little bit about the beard and the evolution of the beard.
Yeah. I tried to grow my first beard right when I got out of the military, and man, it just didn't work for me. I was so used to shaving every day. As a matter of fact, in basic training, I had to shave twice a day. This is only a few, like maybe 3 weeks old, but
yeah.
So, and by the way, your beard is epic, man. I love it.
Thank you.
It's epic. As I got older, it's kind of a generational thing. I think quite frankly, and I think mankind has had evolutions, right? It was big in the 20s, terrible in the 30s, right? And so there's been a kind of, and then in the 60s, you were a hippie if you had a beard,
Yeah,
so
facial hair,
yeah. So I think there's different generational views, right?
Mm-hmm.
That
Absolutely.
happen. And it's funny. I think the older generation, it's kind of interesting. Half of that generation are very accepting to beards in business, and then some aren't. I think COVID has changed a little bit of that, quite frankly. I think people at home, got a little creative and started growing some beards out, during the time. But I'm one of those guys that I don't view it as professional or unprofessional. I do think it needs to be, well kept. And, by the way, I was just camping this weekend out literally on the Continental Divide, and up in the mountains, and it was not well kept, man. I mean, it was in bad shape. So, yesterday I trimmed it up a little bit to just make it look a little more. I am going to be on a video that's on YouTube, so I figure I better clean it up a little. But a couple of things. I like it. I love it personally. I feel that it gives me a little more my as far as personal vanity. I feel like it gives me a little more definition in my face for sure. And it fits my face shape pretty well, I think. So that's pretty good. As far as business with beards, I have never had, that I know of, never had a business owner, a client, or a potential candidate working for our agency think that it was unprofessional. Now, I do think that there are certain faux pas that people do. I mean, don't go out and get a neck tattoo. That's one of the worst things that you can do, right? But as far as a beard goes, I think people's evolution has changed as generations change. I grew up under a generation where literally you dressed up to the T's to go to church on Sunday morning. Now we have generations where you're in shorts and flip-flops on Sunday morning at church, right? So there are some generational changes there, and I think that has a lot to do with it. You and I are Gen Xers. Are you Gen Xer? Yeah, you're Gen Xer. You're not.
I can't ever tell. They always move the bar.
Yeah, the needle gets moved a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a proud Gen Xer, right? So I'm a Gen Xer. And the baby boomers, it's funny. It seems like when the baby boomers were coming up, heaven forbid you have a beard in business. That's just that was very rare that you saw that. But and by the way, my dad, after all of his hard work, sanding tanks, just to kind of put a finish to that story, is he ended up becoming a CEO of many hospitals, and pretty darn successful. So through that hard work. And by the way, that was a great example on how to lead people in business, just so you know. So props to not just Rufus, but my dad as well, had a big influence on me there. And I noticed he was always clean shaven, right? Always clean shaven in business. In his later years, as he was starting to retire, he started growing this big old beard out. And by the way, unkempt. It was gnarly, like gnarly. But
all natural.
Oh yeah, man. He was Grizzly Adams, man. No doubt about it. But to this day, he'll still grow a beard out every now and then. And I said, hey, trim that thing up a little bit, clean it up a little. And then I was like, you know what? You look pretty good for an old man in that beard. So I was like, all right, I'm going to try to grow a little facial hair out. And I've probably been wearing a beard now for the last 4 or 5 years, I'd say. Every now and then I'll get a wild hair and just shave it off.
Sure.
I don't even know why I do. And almost every time I shave it off now, I regret it. Almost every time. So,
okay.
So yeah. So, you know, if you had to take a picture of me, like for a family photo, I'd probably be wearing what I'm wearing right now. So yeah, but as far as professionalism, keep it clean, keep it professional, and you know, don't go like my dad, all Grizzly Adams. He was retired when he did that, right? But you know, and that's okay. If you're retired, cool. But I do think that you should keep it clean, you know, and be presentable, right?
Sure.
Not saying you have to wear a suit and tie. Heck, I'm just wearing a golf shirt right now, right? But it's no different. And I do think times have changed. And I'll give you an example, not to harken back to Rufus Williams. I recently did a portfolio review with him. He was reviewing my portfolio. He manages my assets for me. And here he was in a cocktail shirt, a t-shirt underneath it, and a beard. This was a man, by the way, who never went to the office without a full suit and tie. And I said, dude, you're a little relaxed today. And he goes, yep, COVID's kind of changed things. I've kind of changed my perspective. So I think socially, you know, that's been a good change. I think people are more welcoming rather than so rigid, right? And that rigidity, are those really the clients you want to work with anyway? You know, that's kind of my question. Or do you really want to work with someone that's that rigid? And you know, we can pick who our clients are in our industry for sure.
Absolutely.
And, so yeah, man, I love it. You know, it's definitely getting grayer. It's definitely getting grayer for sure. But I gotta ask, man, how do you keep the handlebars smooth, man? Because that's
it's not easy. I'll tell you that much. You know, it started with a comb, and that was the design. I wanted to do just a handlebar mustache,
okay,
but not the full curl over. But I did go to a party and I had a fake one on, and the amount of attention it drew in was ridiculous. I mean, crazy stories being built right on the spot. Now, we had quite a few cocktails that night. But, you know, one of the guys, he was like, man, we're going to go to uptown Scottsdale and, or downtown Scottsdale. No, I don't remember where it was. We're going to go out on the town and you know, we're going to tell everybody that you used to do elephant, hunting and, you know, like all of this stuff. He's like, and, you know, just made up this whole backstory. And it was just a fun evening. And went home and my wife, she was like, you know, that was really cool. You should grow it out. And I was like, no way. Like I couldn't deal with it. It was hard to drink. It was hard to eat. It was an awesome party.
Yeah.
But you know, it was one of those things. It's like, it's just too much work. So, you know, anyway, during COVID, I started growing it out, and that was the idea, was just to kind of do like a small little beard and little twist. I kept combing it over to the side. And so I basically naturally made it to where it went that way. Now, the curl over is the hardest part because it takes lots of product and lots of playing with it all the time to make those things stick together. I got a little bit of wax, so I put product in it. There's a cement clay that I stick into it, and that keeps it here. And then I wax over the top of it in order to keep it, you know,
Wow.
from fraying out. So this is my public appearance look. When I'm not on camera or going out in public, I usually won't do this part. It just
Yeah.
kind of stays right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a little difficult to maintain. I'm not gonna lie.
It looks impeccable, man. It looks awesome.
I appreciate
But
it.
it looks like a lot of work too.
Yeah.
I will say this: when I got out of the service, like I said, first thing guys try to do, they try to grow their hair long, and they try to grow a beard, right, when they get out of the service. And I did that, and my hair looks terrible long, so I got rid of that pretty quick. I had the Yosemite Sam thing going on.
Oh, okay.
Pretty wild looking, man, honestly. And then I was like, well, I got to go out and get a respectable job. So I got at the time, right, those rigidity. So I decided to shave it off at that point. But every now and then I'd bring that back if I was going to be gone for like a month. I'll do that. But I think this is the look that I'm happy with. And I will tell you a couple things about what I do. I will thin it up along here to kind of keep my jawline, because I got a fat face already, and if it grows out more there, it just makes it look fatter and makes it stick out. So I'll let it grow a little longer here and trim it up back here, and like you, hard to eat and drink. I'll trim it up across here quite a bit I will maintain that, just because I don't want to be biting on hair while I'm eating. So
right, yeah, eating a cheeseburger is just like the toughest thing in the world now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Like my favorite thing to eat is a cheeseburger.
So now if I do that and I got a little here, I'm just tell people I'm saving it for later. So
hopefully not a client.
That's right.
Gotta always double check before you go in. Okay, got anything in there? No, nothing's gonna fall out. I'm good.
That's it. This thing is, I'm very comfortable in it.
Sure.
And for you guys, that are thinking about growing something out, there's a stage. There's a part where it's going to itch and bother you, and then you want to get rid of it. Don't stick with it. Stick with it for a month, and then trim it the way that you want to trim it, right? And then you can go like Anthony and let it go longer. And man, it looks great on you, dude. It looks awesome. I really dig it. Really dig it.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So
thanks for the advice too. I think that's the one thing that we miss a lot of times is, the advice on growing the facial hair, because there is a stage where it's going to itch like crazy. If you don't get some cooling, stuff, they make this cooling gel that you can stick on your face that keeps it from itching so bad, and it smells good and all that good stuff. But that was the hardest part, is getting past just the scratchy, itchy feel.
Yes, absolutely.
And then once you get past it, it's great, right?
That's right.
Fantastic.
That's right. My brother, RC, he's got a pretty epic beard. So he kind of went a little wild man for a while, and I think he's trimmed it up a little bit more now. But he told me, he goes, yeah, I'm going to let it grow more. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, I'm past the itchy stage. I'm like, oh, good. Okay, cool. So every guy goes through it.
Yep.
Really, if you're going to grow it out, I would advise you to let it grow for a good month. Don't do anything, and then trim it up the way that you want to trim. I know that sounds a little crazy. Let it go for a month. Anything past a month, you're very unkempt, and clean it up after that.
Yeah. Hey, great advice. Great advice. So Britt, tell us a little bit about what you got going on right now. Like, what are you focused on? What's next for Britton Johnson?
You know what? Thanks for asking that. We're very fortunate. We're very blessed and very humbled, quite frankly. At the beginning of COVID, which is always a great time to start a new venture, a new business, a business partner of mine, his name's Bruce Ballinger, I, and late Scott Webb got together and decided that we were going to build an agency that mainly focuses on voluntary benefits, right, and the preservation of assets. But instead of just being a one-trick pony and a one-carrier source, we wanted to be brokers in that area. And what we found in the industry is a majority, and this might offend some people, but it's just truth, a majority of health brokers and a majority of property and casualty brokers might say they do voluntary benefits, but it's really an afterthought. It's something that they just kind of throw in, right? Oh, you need some voluntary. truthfully, voluntary is just as important as core benefits, and I'll explain the reason why here in a second. But we built an agency comprised of veteran agents in the industry that know what they're doing, that are professionals, that have figured out a better mousetrap than just a single carrier option. Now, in the development of this agency, it's given us some big advantages in the workspace. And I'll talk about those advantages for a second, but I want to go back to a little something in socially, some things that I want to address, and then also talk about that pain point that you were talking about. So socially, employers, health brokers, we've been socially trained to think about medical benefits as really the primary and only benefit out there. That's really what you think. If I walked into an employer's door and I said, I want to talk to you about your benefits, the first thing that they're thinking is major medical insurance. Usually the second thing they're thinking is, I can't afford it, right? That's typically what they're thinking. And they're right on both cases, just so you know. And I'm not downplaying the need for major medical insurance, but there are three things that always happen to an employee or their family if they get hurt or sick. And Anthony, you know this. Number one, you now have out-of-pocket expenses, right? If you have major medical or not, it doesn't matter. You're going to have copays, deductibles, out-of-pocket expenses at some level, transportation, prescriptions, whatever that may be. Number two, your bills at home haven't stopped, okay? That bill keeps coming. The mortgage, the rent, childcare, internet, food, utilities, whatever the entertainment, whatever that may be, those bills keep coming. The third thing is there's a high probability that there's also a loss of income if there's an accident or injury, whether it be you or a loved one. And most families have dual income now. And there's a pretty good chance that someone's going to be missing income. And that just compounds those problems. This is where our voluntary benefits come in. And what voluntary benefits are really designed to do is put cash directly in your pocket at that time that you need it the most. And that can look like a variety of ways, whether it be, disability, accident plans, critical illness, hospitalization plans. We try to fit the right things for the right people, right? And we don't just try to oversell and throw a bunch of products out there. And that's what a lot of unfortunately carrier reps do. And they only have that one product, right? And they're trying to kind of fit a square peg in a round hole. And a lot of employers have seen that before. They've seen the enrollments when it comes to education, and enrolling or waiving for the employees can be very time consuming. Sometimes you've got unprofessional agents that feel like they're pressuring the employee to sign up for something that they're not sure about, not letting them go home and speak to the spouse about it. Got to make a decision now and sign on the dotted line. And there's a lot of challenges that come with that. In addition to that, some carriers, their solution to that pain point is an online enrollment that has 2 and 3 point authentication, all these steps that the employee has to do. And quite frankly, what that does, every time there's an extra step that employee has to do or that employer has to do, you've reduced your opportunity to serve them by about 35%. Every time there's one little layer of barrier. And Anthony, that's where I'm very proud of something. We have developed, built, created, white labeled and trademarked an enrollment platform. And it's not just an enrollment platform, but a benefits enrollment platform that an employee literally can grab their phone, and in the matter of getting a text message, clicking a link, they can completely have education and enrollment in their benefits and be finished in 5 minutes time with all of their benefits. And it also gives that employee the ability to go home with it, show it to their loved one, that significant other, when it comes to making those family decisions, which are very important decisions, and enroll or waive in the benefits as they so choose. Now, that's great for an employee. But what does that look like for an employer? How many times have you and I, Anthony, been in the field and we're educating and enrolling and trying to do the best that we can to serve, but at the same time, time is money to that employer, and that employer is looking at their
Of course.
watch going, what the heck, right? This is taking too long. I got to get my people producing. You're killing me here, right?
Sure.
It leaves a bad taste in their mouth. And then you don't have future enrollments. It's more complex. Well, with technology, we're able, if someone wants real education, we can do it just like we're having a conversation right now, right? It's super easy for them. It doesn't take that time. If they don't want that education, great. We can build an educational video tailored to that company, tailored to those employees for that group and for that enroll. Now we call it Express Enroll. And I'm going to do a little plug. If you go to voluntarypartners.com, so voluntarypartners with an S.com, and you were to go to Express Enroll Solutions, you can see what that really looks like. And you can set up a demo. We'd be happy to do a demo for anybody, anywhere, at any time. So it's been a gift for employers because now we're not taking up all the time that we used to take every year at open enrollment. It's a gift for employees because they literally they've got their phones on them, right? Everybody's got smartphones these days. They literally can give themselves true education on their benefits, speak it over with their spouse, and make good decisions for their family. And literally they sign with their finger right on their phone. They hit submit and they're done. That's all they have to do. So it's good for the employee. It's good for our health broker partners that choose to work with us because now it's generating more revenue for that broker house that they didn't have before. It's making them stickier in their accounts. It's good for that property and casualty broker because we bring in products that can actually lower their exposure to false workers' comp claims, keeping their business on the books, and it's keeping that employer happier because their workers' comp is staying low. They're having higher benefits participation. And let's be pretty blunt. The two reasons people stay at a job is income and benefits. And when we can have richer, better benefits and no skin off anybody's back and make it easy, I think we've hit something here. And we are able to do what a lot of carriers haven't been able to do. Had a couple of offers from carriers to buy our technology and to buy our product. It's not for sale. This is here as a tool for service. It's not a tool to be sold to a third party. It's a tool that's there to make it easier for employees. It's a tool that's there to make it easier for our broker partners and easier for the employers. And we're very proud of that solution. Because of that solution, that has evolved into special underwriting with some of our preferred carriers. So when it comes to certain requirements that are needed with certain carriers, man, we've got solutions and we can do things that quite frankly, the other guys can't. And I believe it's put us in the catbird seat. And we're very fortunate because, like I said, we like to work with veteran agents, and veteran agents are seeing the discrepancies in the industry, and they're starting to come to us and wanting to work with us. And we don't just choose and select anybody. We want people that have integrity, that want to do it the right way. I tell people it's like this. There's no politics. There's no pressure. I'm not going to ask you what your numbers are this week, right? Unlike what we were used to in the past. We have better front-end service. We have better back-end service. We have better claim service. We have better benefits for less money and better enrollment platforms. Other than that, it's terrible, Anthony. It's a horrible product, but it's great. I feel like I want to get some red hats that says make voluntary fun again. And that's really where we're at. And man, I feel like where this business used to be fun, 15, 16, 17 years ago, I feel like corporations and carriers have taken the fun out of it. And we found a way to make it fun again. And we want to keep that. That's something that's precious to us. And that's deep rooted in our company culture. It's deep rooted in our leadership style. It's never a grind. There's never pressure. And we just want to go out and serve as many people as possible. And thanks for the plug.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And we're actually going to put in the show notes a link to the sites that you would like us to.
Awesome. Thank you.
As well, just to kind of second what Britt has said, when it comes to voluntary, there really is two mindsets here. There's the employee mindset and the employer mindset. And a majority of health brokers and PNC brokers, most PNC brokers, are focused on the employer because that's truly their client. everybody that funnels underneath that policy, those members that are falling underneath there, are the people that are being covered. Those are the people that are on the everyday ticket, right? Those are the ones that are, like you said, their income is their most important asset. It's not their house. It's not their car. It's not their, savings account, which, what do they say? 80% of Americans have less than $1,000 sitting in a checking account at any time. Financial hardship really will change everything. And so, yes, me and my partners, we build health plans with $0 deductibles and copays, but that does nothing when it comes to the fact that I can't go to work and I need a paycheck.
That's right.
It has nothing to do with the fact that, $20,000 would help out if I were diagnosed with cancer to alleviate all of that stress. Yeah. And I've handed personally many checks to people for cancer claims, death benefits, accident policies that paid out for, major car accidents. I went to an emergency room in the ICU. My first year in the industry, where a guy had wrote an accident policy on him, broke both of his legs and both of his arms on a motorcycle, got sideswiped in DFW, and literally went into the emergency room, or not emergency room, the ICU, where he's all, and I said, hey, I need your signature on this, and I'll get all of your medical records, file all of your claims for you, and make sure all your bills are paid for you. And he's like, this is amazing. He's paying $5 a week for this, policy. Yeah. And, it truly is life changing. My great grandmother had voluntary benefits in 1972. We were big believers. When my great grandfather passed away with cancer, she got a huge check. Yeah. And, there's real stories that I think that we miss a lot of times. Or as health advisors, we're like, okay, let's just focus on one piece, and that is taking care of our employer, the employee. We got to get back to that. If we would all focus on the employee first, that's the pain. Yeah, that is the true pain. And inflation is changing at such a rapid pace that, things are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. It's not going to get any better. They're still going to want their beer money. They're still going to want their Netflix money. And so, as we really start to develop these plans, my audience that listens, that is, beard lovers and the insurance lovers, those employees, let's focus on them a little bit more. I got to point you towards Brady. He's going to help out your clients.
Thank you. Thanks, man. And you're spot on, man. Listen, employers, they built their companies, right? Those employers matter greatly.
Absolutely.
The employees are what keep that company going. And you need to maintain and take care of that well-oiled machine that you've developed as an employer. And you're right, man. The employees, that's ultimately what matters. And it's not just them, it's their families.
Sure.
It's their families. I do want to address one little thing that you brought up. You mentioned your story of going to that client and getting a signature for authorization for obtaining medical information and getting them that check. A lot of the corporations and carriers, we've gotten so wound up in our industry and so tight in our industry. There are actually certain carriers out there that are terminating agents' contracts for going out and helping people like that.
Yeah,
today, Anthony.
Yeah, it's
the industry has changed, and I've chosen to primarily work with, and just so you know, like that doesn't come from any legal action. That comes from corporations, publicly traded corporations, trying to cover their backside. And just so you know, we still work with a lot of those publicly traded companies, but our focus, just so you know, and this is what the general public don't realize, is there are worksite voluntary benefits out there that are done with mutual insurance companies, where where that mutual insurance company, the policyholder is the shareholder, not someone on the New York Stock Exchange. And just so you know, part of the culture that we've developed, we hope to primarily work with mutual insurance companies that don't have that corporate hammer that they try to put on agents. Because Anthony, what you spoke about was truly who you are as a person. You have a heart of service, and a heart of taking care of others. And the fact that you went to the hospital there in Dallas, and that you reached out and helped him in the hospital room and said, I need you to sign this, probably with your teeth, or however they signed it, right? That was your willingness to go out and help and serve your clients and your people. And those people do matter. They matter more than anyone else in the whole piece of the puzzle. And when a company tries to limit your ability to serve them, and I really believe they do it for two reasons. One, some of them want hesitancy in paying claims. They will pay the claim, but they want hesitancy in paying claims because that money that they're not spending is money they're gaining in interest. Is one issue, but then also to stymie your ability to serve others. It takes the heart and soul out of what we're about out of the equation. And we try to work with companies that are mutual companies that focus on the policyholder, not the shareholder. And that just, we love working with carriers and businesses that are equally yoked and equally aligned with our values. And some of those corporations used to be that way. It's kind of like Apple. I don't know if you're an Apple guy or an Android guy, but when Steve Jobs passed away, that business has changed completely. They don't have a lot of innovation these days. They just don't. They sell a lot of stuff that other people have already made beforehand. We're back when Steve Jobs was alive, they were extremely innovative. Same goes with some of these insurance companies. When they were founded, they weren't necessarily publicly traded when they were founded. And they were founded by families and real people like us that had a heart service. And we feel that at Voluntary Insurance Partners, mutual companies have the best shot at serving the client in a better capacity. So there's a better path and a better route to go these days. Definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's another golden hammer drop right there we got to give to you, because honestly, like that is the true heart of who you are and the industry and what it was founded on.
Yeah.
And so, I'm really, really eager to see what you guys build out of this. And I know, you've shared some information with me that's really, really huge on how much you guys have grown in such a short amount of time and where you're ranking. It's phenomenal. It really is. So
kind of scary.
It is. It's fun. It's fun and scary at the same time. Right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Brett, really appreciate you coming onto the show. Again, anywhere that we can find you, let us know.
Yeah, go to voluntarypartners.com. Voluntarypartners.com. That'll
link in the show notes.
Yeah, link in the show notes. But thank you. If you go there, you can learn about us. My number's on there. My partner in crime, Bruce Ballinger, his number's on there. Feel free to reach out to us, shoot us an email. We are happy to serve your community, and we are operating in many, many states. So there isn't many states that we don't operate in. So fantastic. Thank you, Anthony. We really appreciate you, and thank you for this opportunity to plug. And it's great catching up with you.
You as well.
Anthony, you're a great person. You're a phenomenal host. Your interview skills are superior, man. So Joe Rogan's got to run for his money here. So
yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Anthony, thanks, man. Hey. Truly a blessing. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Take care, Britt.
You too.
As we end today's episode, I wanted to show my gratitude to all our listeners for your support and reviews. You took the extra 30 to 90 seconds of your day to show love and why this is worthwhile to watch. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.